Hello everyone, we are from Group 4. In this video, we would like to present about verbal communication. So, without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. First, you have to know what is the definition of verbal communication. Verbal communication is the communication using words or sounds directly to express what we want to say.
Rules and styles of speaking. In language, rules for speaking are unlike rules for grammar or spelling and writing. These rules of speaking are usually not studied formally. It involves developing sensitivity to aspects of language that are not normally taught in language textbooks. Some important rules include the degree of directness allowed in speaking and the form of politeness used in everyday speech. Example, student, excuse me, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. Professor, sure, go right ahead. What's the problem? In this case, the student has the sensitivity to politeness when they talk to the professor.
Directness is the way they speak spontaneously or to the point. American English emphasizes directness in the verbal interactions and it has their own meaning. For example, get to the point. Let's get down to the business. Come straight to the point. Out without, speak up. Those are indicates to impatience with avoiding issues. Then conversations between the students and professors that shows directness. Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. Sure, go right ahead. What's the problem? It is seen when information is requested from strangers or from people who are not well known to you. Another is overs and response to overs provide verbal interactions in the conversations between host and guest. Would you like some more dessert? No, thank you. It's delicious, but I've really had enough. Okay, why don't we leave the table and sit in the living room? So there are limits to the degree of directness a person is allowed to express, especially with people of higher status, such as teachers and employers or teachers and students.
Invitations. The misunderstanding that often occurs in English is that of extending, accepting, and refusing invitations. Someone might say something that sounds like invitation, but there is no meeting after that. Invitations should require a definite commitment that contains a specific plan, time, and place. In the first invitation, there is no exactly plan what they are going to do, when and where, while in the second invitation, everything is clear and contains a commitment.
The next thing to learn in verbal patterns is speaking and refraining from speaking. People commonly assume that the way they speak and the way they refrain from speaking are the same from one another. But in fact, different cultures hold different rules on this one. Let's take an example from American culture. Many Americans interpret silence in a conversation to mean disapproval, disagreement, or unsuccessful communication. On the other hand, Americans don't like a person who dominates the conversation. Also, interrupting someone who is speaking is considered as rude in the United States. However, these rules might be different in other cultures. Knowing when to take turns in a conversation in other languages can sometimes cause difficulty. That is why it is important to always do a background check and think before you speak and barge into a conversation.
People have various ways to express their basic needs. However, the way they express those are very affected by their cultural background. For example, Americans tend to be straight to the point because they don't like beating around the bush. Not in the case of the Japanese people. They tend to be indirect. They are likely to use ambiguous speech to deliver their message implicitly in a subtle way, and it is much recommended to ask for clarification. Americans frequently give compliments and it tends to be enthusiastic, while in Japan, it is less frequent to hear people give their compliments. Moreover, compliments in Japan tend to be mild, indirect, and euphemistic. Each language reflects and creates cultural attitudes. Each has a unique way of expressing human needs.